Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Prince of Persia 2008 walkthrough. It's time to continue in healing the ruined citadel, and we are teleporting back to the Sun Temple, I believe it is, yes, and we are heading to the marshalling ground. Because that is our next step to cover. I'm still annoyed at myself for missing that light seed. It's so obviously there and how you get it, but just the brain decided it was going to give up on me. Now, if my memory is not deceiving me, the machinery ground is relatively cool, considering it is an area with the wings of Mars. I mean, that never helps you out in terms of gaining my favour, but I seem to recall it being nowhere near as horrible as the Martyr's Tower, especially in its length. I mean, you can see already it's a lot shorter. Now we're actually kind of almost a quarter of the way through the game. I mean, I know I said that we had quite a ways to go, and I mean, we still do. 3/4 of the game is a pretty hefty amount to remain. But in the grand scheme of things, that's quite a decent chunk. I think it's also around this area where we're going to start to find out more about the Hunter and exactly why he is so vile as a corrupted. And you'll begin to see why it's been said that he is the most evil of all of the corrupted. And if Alaka and the Prince don't discuss it in this particular fertile ground, then they're certainly discussing it in the next one, which is actually one of the biggest puzzle fertile grounds in the entire game. Because although the majority of the fertile grounds are pure platforming challenges, there are the odd few which are very heavily puzzle based. And our final ruined citadel fertile ground is one of those puzzles. And it's not the most difficult of them, but it's still quite hard.
Maybe we should go across while it's safe. Settle down, find a girl, adventuring will kill you. I think my mother was right. Corruption, corruption, corruption. No, Armin's not really into variety, is he?
And no, he isn't. And to be perfectly honest, this game isn't really up for variety in terms of its overarching gameplay. But I'm not going to complain about that, because there has been enough dissent. I don't know if that's quite the right word to be using in this situation, but I'll use it anyway, against this game for its lack of variety in gameplay. I want to try and do something a little bit new. Show off why this game is better than a lot of people say it is. And just kind of prove that even if it is mechanical and relatively automatic, it's still fun enough. I mean, it's not anywhere near as bad as the likes of Epic Mickey in terms of a not truly evolving gameplay style. Because Epic Mickey, to me at least, was one of the dullest games I have ever had the misfortune of playing. I really did not like it, and part of that was because the gameplay was just so dull. It was even duller than this, and even less imaginative than this, and that takes effort. Now, it's around this time that the corrupted are going to start getting new powers. Essentially, they change forms, sort of, and it prevents you from getting at them with other types of weapon. So if ever a corrupted turns blue, then you have to use sword to attack them, otherwise you will get hurt, or Elika will get hurt and incapacitated until you run over to her. Obviously, it is possible to end up with a magic Elika only type shieldy thing, and also a gauntlet only shieldy thing. But I will say that the sword one is definitely the most well, the sword and the magic are the most easy to avoid and deal with, because, I mean, particularly the magic one, because Elika's got a very strong reach.
Yes. Thank you.
Why just stone? I've seen cities with golden roofed palaces, painted temples.
There was color here. The uniforms of the soldiers
I have to say,
paraded and drilled.
I do like the fact that this game is mostly colourful. I mean, obviously you have the dark, gritty, unhealed areas, but once it's kind of been healed, it's quite beautiful.
What did you sell, sand?
I mean,
Traders came here by
there's
the hundreds with food,
one in
silk,
particular, in the Vale, I think it is, that's absolutely gorgeous.
left, and there was no longer a reason for the traders to come.
But colour in video games is always good by me, and to be perfectly honest, that's why I generally stick to Nintendo titles. Just because I like colour. It makes you happy.
They will return.
Let's heal the fertile
And also, having a lovely art style is generally infinitely more preferable to realistic graphics. To me, at least, because it ages better. I mean, even though you can kind of see flaws in these designs and the art style, it's aged remarkably well from way back in 2008. I mean, it sort of does still hold up today. It's not obviously as well rendered,
for a second at least.
but it still looks
Tell
good.
me about this thing. Why do they call it the Hunter?
Legend has it he was a prince who lived for the hunt. After he'd run out of things to trap and kill, he sold his soul to Ahriman in return for a chance to become a hunter of the deadliest animal, man.
Picked the wrong man this time, didn't he?
He's not dead yet.
So, yeah. The reason the hunter sold his soul to Ahriman is because he just wanted to murder people. That's the type of man he was. He was just a cold-hearted murderer, without any sort of redeeming features whatsoever. And I mean, that's bad. Like, pretty much all the other corrupted have some sort of redeeming feature. I mean, it's not necessarily completely redeeming, but more so than anything the hunter has going for him, which is precisely nothing. Now, I don't know whether you noticed my stealth edit. I really shouldn't point it out, because, you know, try and make myself look a little bit more skilled than I was. But I essentially got that light seed and face planted right into the pillar afterwards. 'Twas not pretty.
Thank Ormaz?
But, yeah, the main thing that I wanted to do with the Light Seed collections is just try and make them as painless as possible. Because, I mean, there are moments where I was running around like a headless chicken trying to find some of these things. And it's just like, you don't need to see that, considering you're literally covering the entirety of every single area in a single fell swoop. You don't need to see things again and again and again, even though I am sometimes showing the paths to and from locations multiple times as I move as I have to get to them.
That's another one.
Now, thankfully, as I said, this particular area, the marshalling ground, is really nice in its brevity. Especially after that rather lengthy thing that was the Martyr's Tower. Can't say that the next level's not going to be short. I think, if I recall correctly, it's actually rather long.
Want to rest for a while?
But it's because of its puzzle element, it's a bit more interesting than just plain old platforming.
I didn't think the hunter was the sharpest arrow in the quiver, but waiting for us on the fertile ground wasn't a bad
Well,
move.
he's kind of been doing that every time.
They each have their own skills.
I mean,
Ahriman controls
pretty
them
much
all.
every single corrupted waits for us at the fertile ground. It's kind of what they do.
I haven't sold my soul. I've chosen to serve.
Well, it's kind of debatable, Alika, but I'm sure you will detail that a little bit later on. And you see, this is why this is a lot nicer than the Martyr's Tower, because the use of the Wings of Mars is just very brief. You spend very, very little time using it, which just makes things a lot nicer to get through. You're not kind of flying around for absolutely ages, which thereby increases your chances of flying into something, which in turn means that you are likely to die and then have to do the entire string of flying all over again.
Thank you.
Now, we cannot get those 5 light seeds that are located on that wall. Now, that is something that requires us to have the Hand of All Mars, and we're not getting that until it's around the middle of the game. I'd say around the halfway point. I mean, technically it is the halfway point, because it's 540 light seeds, which is when we are going to get the Hand of All Mars. Obviously, you can get it at any point. You mean you can choose to get the Hand of All Mars first if you wanted, and then do the levels in the Palace and the City, which is the Concubine and the Warrior's realms, and then kind of do the Hunter and so on later. But I would certainly recommend Hunter, Alchemist, Concubine, Warrior. Partly because also, doing it in that order, they do get a little bit more epic as you go along. Particularly leaving the Warrior till the end. He's arguably the best corrupted to leave to the end because of how his string of fertile grounds ends. Obviously that's quite a way away right now, but it's something to get excited for, at the least anyway. And so here we go, time to do our final sweep of this particular part of the area, and then we can, you know, get to the final fertile ground of the Citadel. And that's going to lead to the awesome level that is the windmills. What's going to be in the windmills, you may ask? Well, it's the puzzle that I have been mentioning, but we're also going to find out what the hell a black gate is. Amongst other things. Pretty much as we run into the windmills, you will see exactly what a black gate is, and also that it's going to signal that we are very, very close to taking down the hunter for good. And that can only be a good thing. So, in the next part, we are going to take on the windmills and see our first real puzzle of the game. It's certainly quite a bit fiendish, but yeah.